Wow, was that interesting. The Fox News Kamala Harris debate was bizarre.
And it was not a debate.
Yeah, not a debate.
An interview.
An interview.
It did at times feel like a debate.
It did.
There was a lot of talking over each other.
Yeah.
There was a lot of
anger.
A lot of filibustering going on.
So let me just tell you what happened with Bret Baier. He was promised an hour with Kamala, and then they called, I think, yesterday, maybe the day before, and said, it's only going to be a half an hour. And then they got a call when the half hour is supposed to start. We're going to be about 15 minutes late. Now, there is no reason. What was more important for her to do? Okay. Is there something else that she was doing that was like more important than the Fox News interview? I can't think of one.
I mean, if I were one of her aides, though, I would be popping the tires to make her late.
Right. It was all planned. It was.
You think it was planned?
Absolutely, it was all planned, and she was part of it.
Why do you think that?
Because they needed to throw Bret off. Mm-hmm. Now they walked in just at the time, because it was supposed to be live to tape, not live to tape, so they could not have time to reset during commercials.
Yeah, and people don't always understand that terminology, but that's just basically like it's a live interview. It's just recorded, and then you play the whole thing back as is. There's no edits. There's nothing like that.
Okay, so it's live to tape, and it was recorded right before the show. So you need time to take that recording. It's not like the old days where you take the tape and okay, you have to ingest it into the right I don't even know, the right system to be able to play it back. Okay, and that takes time because it's rendering. So they were at the point to where we're not going to be able to render this fast enough if she doesn't show up in like the next 2 minutes. Okay, that's when she shows up. So they knew exactly what they were doing. She shows up, and now Bret is having to edit all of the questions that he had. I mean, it takes time to put an interview together. So he has to edit. Now, which ones do I do? Because I'm not going to have time. He knows also that they say she's only got 20 minutes. So now they've cut an hour down to a half hour, then down to 20 minutes, and he's flustered. Okay? So they're trying to get him to be completely flustered. He's not. He does a great professional job. However, this is why they did this. He has to be aggressive because she filibusters. And I've done interviews with Donald Trump before where you just can't get a word in edgewise. 20 minutes, I can ask him 1 to 2 questions, and you're just not going to get anything. If he doesn't want to give you anything, or if he's excited about one thing, he's just going to go. Mm-hmm. And you cannot shoehorn your way in. It's why if you listen to my interviews with Donald Trump, you always hear me go, yeah, but, and I'm doing that not to interrupt him, but to signal to him, we got to move on to the next thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you can do that in person, but not over the phone. You have to make that sound so he knows, I got another question for you. Well, she knew he would have lots of follow-up questions. And so she was going to filibuster. And she started hostile, immediately hostile. Now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to jump to the whole reason why she did this. Don't pay attention to anything else that she said. It's all really important for you to know. But she knows the media is in her back pocket. She knows she has to shore up her own voters. Okay? She's on the verge of losing the people that will vote for her, but they're starting to be like, you know what? She's just a limp noodle. There's nothing to her. It's, I've got a great Indy car with no engine or tires. I ain't going to win. All right? So she had to speak not to the Fox audience. She knows she's not going to get them. She doesn't care. We were all being used for her campaign for this one moment. Let me see here. It is, I believe, cut 24.
Protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
Got it? Got it? She needed to shore up her own people. And her own people believe that Donald Trump is a threat. And they needed to show she's tough as nails. She knows, and she's not afraid of anybody. And this is a democracy. And a democracy, a president cannot act like that. This is the most angry she got. And it really came out of nowhere. Okay? Came out of nowhere. This was the moment she was looking for. It didn't matter what the question was. That's why she kept making it about Donald Trump.
Right.
She kept going to Donald Trump, and it wouldn't fit anywhere. It fit right here. Do it. You watch. That's the clip that's going to be seen by progressives and those on the left.
So it was a sort of a scripted takedown in her mind of Trump. He's bad for it. You know, harkens back to the approach of Biden, right? Which was standing in front of the Revenge of the Sith wall and yelling about how bad he is about democracy.
Because there are those who she cannot lose, the ones who are passionate against Donald Trump. She has to have that rage that they have spent 8 years, 12 years on, okay? They've spent all this time and money and energy building up that rage. They need to kindle that rage here in the last few weeks because people are like, I don't even know if I'm going to go and vote. He's a danger to democracy, and I have the will to stop it.
Because joy does not make you vote.
Nope.
Right? Like, that's not how that works.
Nope. Fear and vengeance.
Especially in an election like this, in which you have basically two candidates, Donald Trump and not Donald Trump.
Exactly right.
Like, they need to come up with... They're realizing that's their only source of strength.
That's why she doesn't say what she's going to do. She says, I'm not Joe Biden, and I'm not Donald Trump. Okay, but what are you? This is, you can tell who the author of this whole thing is. It's Barack Obama. Barack Obama. I'm hope and change. What the hell does that even mean? We're going to change. We got hope. We're going to move forward. Yes, we can. What the hell is that? That's not a policy.
But that strikes me more as similar to the joy approach, right? Like sort of this generally positive term that doesn't mean anything.
He could pull it off because he had that speech, remember?
Yeah.
Everybody watched that speech and went, oh, man, he's great. That speech at the DNC.
And not everybody.
Well, not everybody.
On their side, yes.
Everybody who watched it went, this guy could be president of the United States. Everybody said that. And so he was exciting. He was new. He embodied change. He's the first black president. Okay. So he could pull that off. She can't pull that off.
No.
She's angry. She's mean. Her staff doesn't like her. She's unlikable. So this is just about hope and change. This is about joy and not Donald Trump. Not Joe Biden, not Donald Trump. Full of joy, I'll stop him. And I'm going to give you free stuff. How? What? What is that? What are you doing? Somebody who cannot articulate in an interview, all she kept saying, this is very carefully worded. Every time she tries to answer a question, it is, I will follow the law.
I thought the same. What a bizarre response.
Oh, no. Crafty. Oh, very brilliant.
But I mean, in reality, it's not. Of course you're going to follow. What do you mean? Were we supposed to expect you weren't going to follow the law?
But who's going to make the laws? Congress doesn't make the laws
anymore.
The administrative state makes the laws. So she can change the laws into anything she wants. She can go, if she changes the Supreme Court, she can change any law she wants.
Yeah.
I'll follow the law.
Yep. And the law will bend to whatever I want.
Exactly right.
Which is, of course, what is so ridiculous about this, because like one of the ways she did this, and she did do it several times, but one of them was on transgender surgery, for prisoners.
Yeah.
Do we have that clip? I think we do. Yeah, we do. Okay. Should we listen to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Play that.
Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law. And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassessment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people.
And saying exactly what she's going to do. You have a say in the law. She doesn't say yes, but that's why she's saying, I'll follow the law. And the law already says, but he didn't use that. No surgeries happened.
Right.
Will you advocate? He's not advocating for it. Will you advocate for that?
Right. What is, you're supposed to be the candidate of change?
Yeah.
And your answer is, I will follow the law? What do you want the law to change to? That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The whole point of a presidential campaign, she wants to change a zillion laws. Right? That's the whole point. What do you want the law to be? And by the way, that's a masterclass by Bret Baier there, because he asks her the question. He knows where she's going to go with it, which is to blame Donald Trump. He's already got her cut off at the pass, knowing the answer, that there were no transgender surgeries, and then keeps pushing back on her when he says, you have a say in the law. I would have preferred that he kept going. Of course, they cut off half of the interview time.
They couldn't. He expressed his frustration afterwards that, I couldn't do anything with 20 minutes, and you can't.
No.
With 20 minutes, and they had, and I would have made a different choice, but I'm more of a renegade. He's an actual journalist. I'm not. He said 4 people that were in her entourage, 4 were standing off camera behind one of the cameras, looking right at Bret, giving him the wrap up sign. We got to go. It's over. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. I would have said, Miss Vice President, you were 15 minutes late. You've cut our interview to 20 minutes. It was supposed to be an hour. Now it's 30. And can you turn that camera around? Will you show those White House people that are now wrapping this up, telling me to wrap this up? Do you have something more important to do than to talk to the American people?
Oh, yeah.
I would have turned it around on them so hard.
Yeah.
He didn't. So kind of interesting what happened yesterday. There's a lot more that we should probably get into. Kamala, in one of the worst moments, Bret Baier brings up the murdering illegals that were let in. Listen to this exchange. Cut 19.
Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday, campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Bret,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that.
Okay.
There is no question about that.
Just don't follow it with but.
And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced.
So now apologize. Don't say
for
but.
a loss that should not have occurred.
Right. Don't say but.
So that is true.
Yes.
It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock, trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
No.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration.
So she wouldn't, she just won't answer it. And by the way, notice that she's always talking about comprehensive immigration reform. She never talks about the border. She talks about comprehensive, our system is broken. Yes, we all agree with that. But the border policy, you broke. That's why we're having these problems. You guys broke the border. We all know that. So don't talk to me about comprehensive, because that's something people have been trying to do for 50 years. And it won't happen because we're so far apart. You want amnesty. No. You wanted 6,000 people still to be able to come across the border every day. No. This is the biggest con. I mean, lie after lie after lie.
And just to watch that happen, where he specifically picks cases that she can't use this border policy, which, by the way, there is a 0% chance she will actually pursue when she's president of the United States. She's just acting like they all talk about how Donald Trump, all he wanted out of this was a talking point for the election. That's all this is. She's doing it. She's doing the exact same thing she's accusing Donald Trump of.
That's why they introduced that bill. Knowing that the Republicans would never go for it. Mm-hmm. They'd never go for it. So they had that talking point.
Yep.
And she'll get in and she'll say, see, they're standing in the way again.
I hope the Republicans who went along with it realize that now. I hope they realize how they were part of that.
Yep.
Maybe unwillingly, but they were.